Dennis Ronald MacDonald is the John Wesley Professor of New Testament and Christian Origins at the Claremont School of Theology in California. MacDonald is known for his controversial theories wherein the Homeric Epics are the foundation of various Christian works including the Gospel of Mark and the Acts of the Apostles. The methodology he pioneered is called Mimesis Criticism. If his theories are correct, and the earliest books of the New Testament were responses to the Homeric Epics, then nearly everything written on the early Christian narrative is flawed. According to him, modern biblical scholarship has failed to recognize the impact of Homeric poetry. The other major branch of MacDonald's scholarly activity is his contribution to the Synoptic Problem. He calls his solution the Q plus Papias Hypothesis. Background: MacDonald earned his undergraduate degree from Bob Jones University, a Master of Divinity from McCormick Theological Seminary, and a Ph.D. from Harvard University. He taught theology and biblical studies at the Iliff School of Theology in Denver, Colorado from 1980 to 1998. Since 1998 to present he has been a John Wesley Professor of New Testament at the Claremont School of Theology and Professor of Religion at the Claremont Graduate University. He also is the Director of the Institute for Antiquity and Christianity at Claremont. Christianizing Homer. In one of MacDonald's first books, Christianizing Homer, the Odyssey, Plato, and the Acts of Andrew, he posited the theory that the non-canonical Acts of Andrew was a Christian retelling of Homer's Iliad. In it he argued that one could detect trends that showed parallels between the Homeric epic and the Acts of Andrew. He argued that the Acts of Andrew is better understood in light of the Odyssey, that the order of events in the Acts follows those found in the Acts of Andrew, that certain events in the Acts are better understood when understood in context of the Homeric Epics, and that the Homeric texts commonly were available during the 1st century AD. In subsequent works, MacDonald expanded his hypothesis to include the Acts of the Apostles and the Gospel of Mark as being Christian variations of the Homeric Epics. In Christianizing Homer, MacDonald lays down his principles of literary mimesis, his methodology for comparing ancient texts. There are 6 aspects he examines: 1. Accessibility, 2. Analogy, 3. Density, 4. Order, 5. Distinctive traits, and 6. Interpretability. According to his hypothesis, not only was Homer readily available to the authors of the New Testament, but the Homeric Epics would have been the basic texts upon which the New Testament authors learned to write Greek. MacDonald also argues that the number of common traits, the order in which they occur, and the distinctiveness thereof between the Homeric texts and early Christian documents help to show that the New Testament writers were using Homeric models when writing various books. In his earliest reviews, MacDonald only applied his hypothesis to works such as Tobit and the Acts of Peter. In later works, he posits the Acts of the Apostles, the Gospel of Mark, and Gospel of Luke are the merging of 2 great cultural classics, in order to depict Jesus as more compassionate, powerful, noble, and inured to suffering than Odysseus. Homeric Epics and the Gospel of Mark. MacDonald's seminal work, however, is the Homeric Epics and the Gospel of Mark. According to MacDonald, the Gospel of Mark is a deliberate and conscious anti-epic, an inversion of the Greek Bible of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, which in a sense updates and Judaizes the outdated heroic values presented by Homer in the figure of a new hero. Quote, "The book begins by examining the role that the Homeric epics played in antiquity, namely that anybody who was considered educated at the time learned to read and write, and they did so by studying the Odyssey and Iliad. Students were expected not only to understand the epics, but be able to rewrite the stories in their own words. Rewriting the Homeric epics was commonplace and accepted in biblical times. In using the Homeric epics, the ancient writers were not trying to deceive their readers. In fact, MacDonald believes the ancient readers understood the juxtapositions of Jesus with Odysseus. Mark's purpose, he argues, in creating so many stories about Jesus was to demonstrate how superior Jesus was to Greek heroes. Few readers of Mark fail to see how he portrays Jesus as superior to Jewish worthies. He does the same for Greek heroes. Quote, reception. MacDonald's work regarding the New Testament writings and Homeric epics has not attained mainstream support in New Testament studies and is contrary to modern form criticism. New Testament scholar Karl Olav Sandnes, author of the monograph The Challenge of Homer, School, Pagan Poets, and Early Christianity, critiqued MacDonald in an article of the Journal for Biblical Literature. Sandnes notes the vague nature of alleged parallels as the Achilles heel of the Slippery project. He has also questioned the nature of the alleged parallel motifs, seeing MacDonald's interpretations of common motives. He states, his, MacDonald's, reading is fascinating and contributes to a reader-orientated exegesis, but he fails to demonstrate authorial intention while he, in fact, neglects the OT intertextuality that is broadcast in this literature. Quote, 732. Major publications. Dennis MacDonald. The Legend and the Apostle. The Battle for Paul in Story and Canon. Westminster and John Knox Press. 1983. ISBN 0-664-24464-5. Dennis MacDonald. Christianizing Homer, the Odyssey, Plato, and the Acts of Andrew. Oxford University Press. 1994. ISBN 978-0-19-508722-2. Dennis MacDonald. The Homeric Epics and the Gospel of Mark. Yale University Press. 2000. ISBN 0-300-08012-3. Dennis MacDonald. ed. Mimesis and Intertextuality in Antiquity and Christianity. Trinity Press International. 2001. ISBN 1-56338-335-7. Dennis MacDonald. Does the New Testament imitate Homer? 4 Cases from the Acts of the Apostles. 2003. ISBN 978-0-300-09770-2. Dennis MacDonald. Acts of Andrew. Early Christian Apocrypha. Polbridge Press. 2005. ISBN 0-944344550. Dennis MacDonald. The Intertextuality of the Epistles, Explorations of Theory and Practice. 2006. ISBN 978-1-90504862-5. Dennis MacDonald. 2 Shipwrecked Gospels. The Logoi of Jesus, and Papias's Exposition of the Logia about the Lord. Society of Biblical Literature. 2012. ISBN 9781589836907. Further reading. Karl Olav Sandnes. Imitatio Homeri. An Appraisal of Dennis R. MacDonald's Mimesis Criticism. Journal of Biblical Literature 1124 quarters. 2005. 715-732. Stan Harstein. Review of Dennis R. MacDonald. Does the New Testament imitate Homer? 4 Cases from the Acts of the Apostles. Review of Biblical Literature. 2005. 1. See also. Mimesis Criticism. Q plus Papias Hypothesis.